Hi, this is Paul Sanneman from Business Success Tips, where we help people learn how to make more money in less time and have more fun. I have Fred Reikowsky from Legacy Business Leaders. Now, here's a guy who's been in business almost as long as me, right? He's a lot of experience, right? So, Fred, a couple of questions. Tell people about your background and why should someone listen to what you have to say?
Great question, Paul, and thanks for having me on the podcast today. My background is 33 years as a builder. Started out in custom homes, and then I transitioned over to all design, build, remodels, and renovations for about the last 20 years. Along the way, a lot of teaching and training with the remodelers and builder certification programs, which was really eye-opening for me. Post-builder career, I went into a nonprofit and became the U.S. director, uh, whereby we were doing leadership training primarily in the Middle East. And during that time, I had met a colleague who had been in leadership for quite some time, but he had transitioned over into business coaching, which was something that really resonated with me because I loved training, teaching, leading people. And that made a natural transition for me, 12 years ago now, into full-time business coaching, primarily, of course, I think you'd think naturally in the construction industry. So that's how I've landed here today. And I think the thing that qualifies me the most, in all honesty, isn't so much necessarily all the experience I've had, although that has certainly contributed in a very significant way. But along the way, you have a lot of failures, make a lot of mistakes, and those things really, I think, are what qualify us, and myself in particular in this case, to be able to speak into the lives and businesses of the people that I work with.
Okay, question. How would you define leadership?
Leadership is really misunderstood. Typically, we think of it more in a positional sense or as a hierarchy, but leadership is really all about influence. It's the idea that we can have impact with the people around us, regardless of where we reside on the org chart. So leadership isn't reserved for people that have a title or a position in the company that's above everyone else. It really is the idea that we can purposefully impact the lives of the people around us in a very positive way. And so that influence that we have, leadership is basically the idea that we inspire the people around us to follow us, to choose, to make the choice to follow us. And
So
that's,
I guess you could say Gandhi, Jesus Christ, and Hitler all had leadership abilities, right? Depending where you're leading the people, right?
yep, yep,
So,
absolutely.
so question. I've heard this saying, there's a born leader, right? People say leadership is something you're born with. Either you're a leader or you're not. How do you teach somebody to be a leader? Isn't that something they are or they're not?
Well, that's a great point, and it's really, again, one of those that's misunderstood about leadership because typically we've been conditioned to think of leadership as this idea that we have a charismatic person that's in the position of CEO or general manager or whatever the case
You
may
think
be.
of
And
like
really,
Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or somebody like that, right?
totally. And you can look back in history and see the history of a lot of charismatic leaders who ultimately failed. I mean, like when they vacated the position, suddenly everything just caved in behind them. A real leader is someone who has learned the skill of positively impacting the lives of the people around them, and and recruiting followers along the way who are devoted and loyal to them and to the cause, of course, along the way. So leadership is, there's nothing further from the truth that there's a born leader. Yes, some people are more inclined to develop and have some of the leadership skills that are needed, but honestly, along the way, leadership is a skill that's learned and developed after you've practiced it a lot. It's like any other discipline; it takes a lot of practice.
So how do you tell? I mean, I can think of leaders like Genghis Khan may have used fear, Jesus Christ used love. They'll have their way of leadership. So how does you teach? John Doe Contractor, who was a carpenter, started his business. He got it going. He hired some of his friends, and now he has this construction company. It's doing 3-4 million, and he can't seem to find good people. People leave him. And he come to you and go, look, I just don't get it. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've got 2 clients. They're both in the same town. One says, I can't, there's amazing people out here. I've got all these great people work for me. They're incredible. I love these guys. I've got the best team on the planet. Guy down the street, same business, same market, says, people suck. I can't find anybody. They all are terrible. I hire people, they don't work hard, they don't know what the work ethic is. They just don't get it. How do I find decent people? It's really hard. Have you ever had that happen?
Oh my gosh, every day. And as a matter of fact, it's such a great point because uh, leadership, and let me just put it this way at more of a global level, leadership is really about impact. And in that regard, it really comes down to the idea that success is a mindset, first and foremost. And if you don't and can't or won't adopt a leadership mindset, i.e., you have never learned or practiced the skills of leadership, honestly, default position is what you just described. That's called a victim. I can't, I won't, nobody will, it's all their fault, and so forth. It's always somebody else's problem. But leadership in reality is accepting the really uh, straightforward truth that the minute my needs and my desires are perceived by others around me as more important than theirs, then I've lost the day. I'm not leading anymore. I cannot create the credibility and the following that I have to have in order to mobilize people in a way that's positive for my. I can't do it. And I'll just go on through the rest of my career with all kinds of excuses like you just described, and it just doesn't work. So leadership is that mindset where we're really and truly embracing and adopting the idea of humility, number one, and the idea that we can be empathetic towards other people, placing their needs above ours. And when we do that and we practice that religiously, honestly, at the end of the day, we'll have more people following us than we can ever imagine.
So this is a tough one. How do you teach someone not to be a victim?
The first step is understanding what their core values and purpose are. And that's where most business owners and leaders, especially in our industry, really miss the boat. They look at that stuff as a bunch of flowery platitudes on the wall that mean
It's
nothing
like
to anybody.
I think, like the airy fairy kind of. You can convince somebody to buy a tractor, right? You can convince somebody maybe to use whatever project manager software, because I've drugged people through technology for the last 4 years. How do you convince somebody they need to take a leadership course? They're going to go, excuse me, what a waste of time. I already know what the heck I'm doing. I'm a good guy. People like me. Leadership's a waste of time.
Well, the first thing is just ask them some straightforward questions. Like I said, their core purpose and their values. Because, in all honesty, what's going to happen is you're basically asking the question: Are you? There's only two ways you can inspire people as a leader. Or excuse me, influence them as a leader. You can inspire them, or you can manipulate them. And my question is: Are you manipulating people, or are you inspiring them? And the next question I hear back in return response, 90% of the time is, "Well, tell me more. What do you mean inspire them?" They feel leaders typically are conditioned to feel like, well, if I do that, I'm not seen as a strong leader. I have to be
Right.
dominating and so forth. But when I do that, I mean, before we even get to the idea of, are you going to adopt a project management software? Are you ready to really recruit in a way that's positive and impactful? What's your sales process like, and so forth? Typically the response comes back, well, I'm interpreting now what I hear from people day in and day out is, well, I just do my best to manipulate them around and get them to do what I want them to do. Well, that's not leadership.
That's sort of like Genghis Khan, Fear Works, right? What is it? He wrote a book about that. But
Yeah, exactly. Genghis Khan and Sun Tzu. I'm
right,
not pronouncing that correctly, but yeah, it was the same basic thing.
the Art of War,
Uh,
right?
there you go. Yeah, the art of war. But at any rate, that it's a mindset, and it takes a real paradigm shift. And I'm going to say this because, in answer to your question, it's the only fair answer. It's some of the hardest work leaders have to do is learn and adopt and embrace leadership skills.
So I'm that's it still sounds, I mean, it sounds a little airy fairy to me. I mean, fluffy, woo woo, all that kind of like hippie stuff, right? So, why should I go to a leadership seminar or something you would talk about? And how, even say I decide to go, say, okay, fine, I give up, I'll go. What are you going to teach me? I don't know.
Well, first, I'm going to ask somebody: Are you getting the results you really want and deserve from this business? That's my first question to most
Sounds
people.
like a Dr. Phil question, right? How's this working for you?
Maybe. I mean, he's not one of my favorite characters, but the point is that when you ask people that question and you start orienting them towards results thinking instead of task thinking, now you're on a leadership track, and now I can begin to talk to them about, okay, so what's missing right now? If you really and truly want different results, what do you need to be doing different? What do you need to stop doing, et cetera? And those are all leadership questions. Now I can begin to introduce the idea of leadership training or leadership seminar or whatever you might have. But until then, until you get someone to really focus on results, our industry is very, very urgency oriented. We have emergencies all day long that hijack our best intentions. That's the nature of the industry. That's why it's so difficult to adopt a leadership mindset versus an urgency, task-oriented mindset.
I have the same issue. People say if they look at a project, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you're done, right? They don't look at things as a process because they build stuff all. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I'm not sure leadership has those qualities, right? Like a beginning, a middle, and an end, like a project.
No, not really. I use the illustration of mental contrasting. Few people have heard of it. It's very simple, though. We see it all the time. It's the idea of where do you want to go and where are you now? And immediately when you create that contrast between the two, you create tension, but it's positive tension, not emotional tension. There's a big difference.
So I'm a contractor. Explain to me what that even means. I don't get it. And what do you say?
Yeah, so I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna say, okay, tell me what you really want, because most contractors, most builders are all conditioned to think about what do I need to do. They're asking the wrong question. The question is, what do I really want? Begin to help me to quantify that, because when you do, you're telling me what this ideal future looks like for me compared to where I am now. And you're beginning to create that positive creative tension in a person, whereby you can begin to ask relevant and meaningful, impactful questions. What needs to change? Listen, if you describe to me, well, I want to make more money. Okay, that's a fundamental mandate of being in business. Tell me more. You make more money, what happens? Are you more satisfied with your life? Can you take better care of your family? Can you better care for your employees, your staff, impact your neighborhood, your community? I mean, all kinds of questions begin to come out of that, and it's a fairly simple process. You can use it in any aspect of leadership.
So I imagine very few contractors ask you, who do I need to be, right? That's not a common question.
No, not so much.
So they're asking, I guess the question is, who do I, I get it. I mean, who do I need to be to have what I want? Can you answer that question? Is that something you can tell a contractor?
Yeah, I would love it. I mean, that's my point, is trying to get them to ask that question. Typically, they're asking, "What do I need to do?" Well, my question is, well, in all, just distilled down is, well, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a person that's respected by your staff, that they will willingly follow and listen to, that has credibility in your business, your family, your community? What do you want to be? What does it look like? Because again, that's the top side of the mental contrasting illustration. Tell me more. And just getting them to discuss and think about what that is a big milestone in this whole process of leadership skills.
So I'm a typical contractor guy. I do $3 million a year. I've got some good employees, some not so good employees. I'm not making as much money as I want. I'm working harder than I want to work. I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. I would like to be, this is sort of like, I would like to work 40 hours a week, be well respected in my community, have a great product, have great employees, you sort of have a good life, that's where I want to go. But I've been working at this for 15 years and I can't seem to get there. I keep working harder and it doesn't seem to work more. The harder I work, the more I have to work. And I'm not making any more money than I was, 5 years ago. Then the pandemic happens and this happens. And it's just like, it's really hard. So how are you going to help me become that person? I don't get it.
Absolutely great. Here's your first step. Understand who you are, what your values are. That is the parameters in between which we will deliver the highest value possible for all of our stakeholders, everybody, not just our end users, but our owners, our staff, our stubs, our vendors, everybody. How do we do that? Well, we create parameters, and then we create standards, and we gain congruence on those standards over time. Here's what I mean by standards. For example, do you have clearly articulated results-oriented job descriptions? Do you have that? Are you pointing everybody in your organization towards mutually beneficial results? That's a big term, but it's an important one. If the results are important for the staff member, as they are important for the end users, then really nobody really cares other than getting a paycheck. So I'm going to start helping you to create this mindset of clear standards with clear parameters. Here's a point, Paul. Most of our builders are scared to death of trying to implement, infuse, foster accountability. In fact, most of
I talked to a lot of, but they don't even know what KPIs are, right?
say it again.
They don't even know what key performance indicators are. You ask them, what are your KPIs?
No.
What's the KPI, right?
No, absolutely. And it's a huge part of the discussion, or at least it should be. At some point, it must be, because if we're not measuring success, then we can have no accountability. There's nothing to be accountable to.
Right. So I'm a contractor. How are you going to get that to happen in my company? I've been around for a while. I have some job descriptions, you know, I sort of use it once in a while. I'm lucky. I review people once a year and say, hey, good job, keep it up, we're doing good. That sounds way too complicated. I mean, is it really worth it?
Oh man, I'm gonna, and this is where most contractors start this process. Is it really worth it? And that's a great point. Is it? And I'm going to start by helping you understand your why. Why do you do this? What do you really want out of it? What do you expect this initiative, this business to deliver to you in terms of value? I'm going to continually point you and then help you point your staff towards results orientation. Everything we talk about has to be oriented toward measurable. That's what a result is, right? A measurable outcome. I'm going to help you do that. Then now, as you cascade that mindset throughout your whole organization, and that takes time and perseverance, but it's very, very achievable. If you're committed to winning, you're going to embrace the results. And these aren't the results I want for you. These are the results you want out of your organization. I'm just helping pull them out of you so we can set those standards that are common and compelling for everybody around us.
Well, that sounds like a lot of work. I mean, how do I've got, I don't pick a number. I've got 6 employees, a couple with me a while, and one guy's not so great. I'm doing okay, but it seems like I'm in, survival, not really thriving. I've been in survival for years here. I want to get out of survival. I'm getting tired. I mean, it's just way too much work for the amount of money I'm making. I maybe, how are you going to fix it? I've been this way for 10 years, man. How are you going to actually help me out?
The only way I can do it is to inspire you to pursue a worthy cause. And when you really think about it, a worthy cause is the only thing that will foster virtuous behavior over time. That's it. Nothing else will.
Making a
Now, if
shitload
you're
of money, no offense, my French, is not a worthy cause, right?
right. Well, what is a worthy cause? I want to be able to work fewer hours so I can spend time with my family. There's a worthy cause. How about that one? I want to put my kids through college. I want to bless my employees. I want to have time to give back to my community rather than working 60 or 70 hours a week. I want to have enough money to put away for retirement. I mean, you fill in the blanks. Profit's misunderstood too. It's not a destination. It's a tool to get to the destination. So I have to help you alter your thinking, have that paradigm shift whereby you're thinking about results and outcomes as opposed to tasks. Now, some builders and contractors, like you described a minute ago, they're so burnt out that it's really, really difficult for them to embrace anything that would help them grow and transcend all the stuff that goes on in this business. But almost all of them, the vast majority for sure, once you start discussing value in terms of my ideal future, what I really want, a great outcome, it gets their attention and it starts giving them hope. And honestly, hope is the only thing that will compel somebody to start taking the steps of going through this, like you said, this difficult, challenging process of leadership. But it's the only way that you can lead a company into the future successfully.
So give me an example, concrete example of somebody that actually your leadership training made. Now this is, I hate to say bottom line, because a lot of contractors I deal with, I'm in recruiting, right? Recruit somebody, we're done, right? They don't get that recruiting as a process. They think it's something you end and I've had a difficult time convincing them that it is a process. They consider it a project. So from your point of view, give me an example where you taught leadership to I'm call average contractor, somebody between 1 and 5 million or something, that actually made a difference in his life, in his business, and his finances.
One builder, and I work primarily with builders now. I have worked with a lot of trades in the past. I'll give you an example of one builder who contacted me probably close to 6 years ago, 5 years ago. But it wasn't he that contacted me. Interestingly, it was his wife that found me on the internet. And so I answered the call and had a little discussion, and I could hear the angst in her voice and her stress and worry about their marriage and their family and the damage being or potentially being done by the demands of the business for her husband, who was the owner. So we started working together. I'm not sure the husband was all in at the outset, but at the urging of his wife, he decided,
Happy
yeah,
wife,
okay,
happy
we need
life. I've heard that one before, right?
sure, which is a good thing because in all honesty, I give her a lot of credit for having the courage to go find help. And so we began to work together, and it was about 2 years in, we worked through all kinds of issues and challenges, primarily concerning leadership and protecting the golden goose, the business, so that the personal life could improve. And it was so rewarding to me to hear them say, I don't know, it was probably a year and a half, 2 years in. They said, you know what? I emailed them one day or called them, I forget what it was, and they emailed back and said, hey, by the way, thanks to you, we're out west on a 3-week vacation. And we're so happy that the business can run without us and run very profitably. And we have full confidence in that now. And the systems we've implemented, in addition to the leadership skills, have made all the difference for our foremen and our project managers too while we're gone. So, and our salespeople, they have a sales staff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was just one example of how, oh, you know what? This is why I do what I do, and I'm so fortunate to be able to be a part of that.
You're going to make a difference in people's lives. I know as a
Amen.
coach, that's been the most, rewarding thing for me when you actually make a difference in someone's life. That's cool.
Absolutely.
So, I think leadership is amazing. I think that I've been doing this for 40 years, and I would say it's a training that everybody needs, but they don't take. They're more interested in doing something else that, quote, produces results. And yet, 9 times out of 10, when you talk about the problem in the business, it's usually the owner. Now, not he's a bad person, it's just his behavior and his stuff that he's doing is causing most of the problems in the business. And if you can shift that around, then the business changes because he's the leader.
It's interesting because when I have these discussions early on with builders and contractors, I'll ask them the question, after we discuss a little bit about business and structure, infrastructure and things, what's your biggest challenge? And oftentimes I'll just sit across the table and think for a minute and say, well, it's me.
That's a good start, right?
Well, it's a great start. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
And it was for me too, for a long time in my early years. So yeah.
Great.
Experience.
That sounds like a really good advice. So if people want to get in touch with you, Fred, how do they get in touch with you as far as, leadership training, other things you can do to help out their business?
Sure. LegacyBizLeaders.com, BIZ leaders, plural.com, Legacy Biz Leaders. That's our website. You can get in touch with me there. My email is just fred@legacybizleaders.com. And welcome to contact me anytime. But I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Fred. This is probably one of the most valuable things people need to learn is this leadership, but it's something that most contractors are not going to go on the internet looking for profitability. They're looking for employees. What they really need is leadership skills. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Paul. Have a great day.